So I've got Pete Grace with me today from Grace Cricket. He's a bat repairer and bat maker. He currently works with a big majority of the Blackcaps, Firebirds and a number of other, Blaze as well, and a number of other professional cricketers as well as amateurs in the kind of Wellington and wider area. So really excited to talk to him today and learn a bit more about bat making and whatnot. So yeah, Pete, so really interested to dig into kind of your career timeline and how we've got from, so I think you used to work in the fire service, and how we've got to becoming one of the premier bat makers and repairers in New Zealand, and applying your craft for some of the world's best.
Yep. Cheers, mate. Cheers, Taylor. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here, man. We've had some good chats on the sideline, and it's great to let's get deep into this. I was a firefighter, and alongside that, I sort of had a hobby that I got into. So just going back a little bit further, I was really into golf. I played amateur golf. I'd never turned professional, but I was pretty into my equipment. So back then, I wouldn't let anyone touch my golf clubs. They were mine, and they had to be a certain way. I kind of got the skills in terms of working with my hands through working with golf clubs. With metal, you can be super precise, and that was fantastic. So we could always tweak stuff on it, the grips as well. I have to have them at a certain angle and stuff like that. So I was just really into being working with my hands. Used to, when I was a kid, watch my grandfather work in his workshop. Loved it. Loved being out there. Quite therapeutic, that kind of thing. 2015, Cricket World Cup was on. Blackcaps went really well in that one, and it just sparked my boy's interest in the game. So he was a young fella at the time. He got into cricket, so we went down, got the cricket bat, little bits of things he needed a new grip, so I put a new grip on. The face needed redoing, so I did the face. So I got right into that, and then one day he broke a handle. I looked into getting it repaired, and then I just thought, you know what, I'll do it. So got myself a handle, made a little splicing jig, which took me about 2 weeks. It was hard. And that's really how I got into it, and I just loved it. I love the challenge, I love the process, I love being part of it. So I don't really play cricket, but you can be part of the whole lot. And then from there, maybe 5 years ago, first time I worked with a professional player, totally by chance. Jamie Gibson, did 4 bats for him. Thanks, Jamie. And then naturally, I was pretty stoked, to work with a professional player. He was pretty stoked to get his bats fixed. And then I sort of made him a deal. I said, look, if you like my work, tell your teammates. So he was in the Firebirds at the time. And then it just, it's all been word of mouth, the whole lot. So that for me as well, I felt like a little kid at Christmas working on professional players' bats. And then as well, you got to be bang on. So like jobs now, that might take me an hour. Like I was spending 4 hours on them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we had to get them bang on. These guys they're playing cricket for a living. So I knew the stakes were higher. And then I guess, through repetition, you just get a little bit quicker. And now you just, so that's, I guess, how I've gotten to here. It's all been just a natural progression, an evolution, if you will. And then, I was sort of lucky to have a job, super purposeful job being a firefighter. Firefighters, teachers, police, it's hard walking away from that, but I'd found something that I really loved. Having a job that I was fortunate to get in the first place, and then find something else that I loved, I just feel super lucky. So it's been, at the end of this year, 2 years doing this full time now, and it's keeping me super busy, so it's sort of really fortunate. There's some cool people out there, and they break bats, so it's great. So things are working out nicely for me.
No, I remember talking to you, I think just before you were about to make the transition to Grace Cricket full time, and it sounded like you're particularly busy lad.
Yeah,
So,
2 full-time jobs. Yeah.
But I think it just, it's a testament to the work that you do that it's kind of been so successful, and you've obviously filled that void that was there. And
I set high standards for myself, so just continually trying to meet those. And like I really feel it when I see a bat that I've worked on TV or even in a 10-year-old's hands. Like I feel that connection. So it's really important to me that the work is good for that person. One, I want them to come back. And 2, I really want them to go out there and score runs. Like I feel that passion that they have for the game. Cricket's fantastic. It's my way of being part of it. So cheers Taylor. Thanks mate.
No, that's awesome. Keen to dig in a little bit more around particularly your kind of handle process.
Yep.
So personally, how I came across you was there was a player I was working with. Turned up to a session with some sort of slightly funky stickers and that you'd made up for him. Had redone a couple of his handles, and then maybe 18 months later came across you here at the academy where your boy was training in a team that we had here, and got you to do a couple of bats for myself. I've had a heck of a lot of re-handles done, and can easily say that they're the 2 best handles that I've had. They're still going great today, not playing as much cricket, but I think I've spoken to you about this before, but that often when a handle broke, the bat was effectively kind of dead to me, and I might, get it redone and flick it off to a youngster or something who needed, go up a size or something like that.
Yep.
Just put it back into the community. But actually the 2 bats kind of thought I'd give it a go. Everyone said really good things, were excellent and still going great. A couple of years on, so would love to dig in a little bit more about your kind of process and how you go about the handles.
Well, I'm glad those handles are still going, mate. It's awesome. So I guess we have a cricket bat's 2 pieces, right? We've got the blade, which is typically English willow, and then we have a handle which is made out of a cane from Singapore, I think it's from, and then it's got rubber strips in it. So quite a common misconception with people is once a bat's handle goes, the bat's gone. So I'd like to argue that's not always true. So when we make the bat, the handle and blade have to come together. It's glued in exactly the same way as when we rehandle the bat. So for me, putting a new handle in, I'm always of the opinion like, okay, that one's broken, the one I put in, I want it to be better. Right, I want it to, I know that my supplier is supplying me good handles. I know that my process is right for splicing the blade and the handle, and I know my fit's right. I choose the right glue, it's clamped at the right pressure. So to me, a new handle should be like, oh man, it's better. We've got the old one was starting to flex too much, whatever it may be. It was coming loose, whatever it is. So to me, a new handle should be like getting a new bat. It's so important, the handle. It's the only part that we touch. So as well, early on I was quite surprised a lot of players they may have like 10 bats, some of the pros, and the handles weren't the same. So to me I was like, I have 14 golf clubs, right? Take out the putter, you got 13 clubs, every grip is exactly the same. So to me, let's get the handles the same. It's something I think was overlooked. So to me it was sort of like, that came across from the golf, getting the handles right. But as well, they break. I've had a couple break, they come back to me and it breaks my heart. But it happens, it's a natural product. Sometimes something goes wrong and you've got to accept sometimes it's just not going to be right. But push the ego aside, get on with it, redo it as well. But whether it's a top professional on TV using a handle, or it's my boy or another kid playing cricket, it's done the same way. So it's the process is exactly the same, and to me it's really important. So
it's a great point you make around the consistency of the handles and grips. One thing I see from coaching a lot is with young players is often if they have a handle that doesn't quite suit them or suit their grip, that those hands drift and it throws everything out in the bat swing from there, that can lock them up or make it hard for them to access the ball. So that's a really, really valid point.
I think so. With the handle, so people go buy a bat, right? typically what they'll do is they'll look at the stickers, they'll look at the price tag, they'll count the grains, right? That's typically how it works, first three. So few people look at the handle and think about the handle shape. Is it round? Is it semi-oval? Is it oval? Is the thickness right? So I think as well, so from my point of view, I really look at that. So it's, for me, working with my son, for instance. So his handles, he likes them a particular way, so we make them that way. At the same time, his feelings or thoughts around it may change. We can change it, right? So he's pretty fortunate in that situation, but as well with the professional players, some of them will chop and change with things, but they're pretty particular about what they like. I think the very best ones will go, you know what, like I did like that. I've tried this one, this is really good. I'm going to try that. Let's give that a go. So it's not making your mind too early on what you like, but at the same time, give it some thought. So looking at it, and I do notice that people over time, because they haven't given it thought, have just become accustomed to something. So it's rather than they've gone, I really like this handle, it's I've used this handle for 10 years, this is the handle that now my subconscious is tuned into. Now this is what I like. So I'm more of the opinion, like, let's get what you actually like. Let's try things out. That's sort of like my thoughts on it. I get pretty deep into the handle stuff. Maybe, but one of the players sends me 5 bats. I'm trying to make them exactly the same. I'm not a CNC machine. I'll get them pretty close, but and I'll measure them with calipers and stuff like that. But as well, it's so hard to get them exactly the same. But we work hard to do that.
How do you find, like, you obviously kind of replicate bats or help make adjustments to some of the pros' bats to match them up? How do you find that process?
So I think, like, number one, some players are got like, if you imagine Tiger Woods with golf, amazing feel, right? So I think he won 15 majors, 14 of them with one putter, right? And that's made out of metal. They replicated that putter, and he said it never felt like that exact one. So to me, like, if you're working with players that are like that particular with something, communication's really important. So to me, I'm looking at it from, if I make it this thickness, if I can make it exactly like that, or what exactly is it about your handle that you like? Some players like trying to get the right communication out of them. Is like they know, they're very clear about what they're thinking, and then for me to break it into, okay, that's cool, now I need to make something with it, so get that into something that becomes a handle for them. And other players are just like, you know what, I love the handle, that's great. Other players are like, I'll say, what shape handle do you want? They're like, oh, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, they're like, just whatever's in that one. So they're not as particular. And as well, I mean, I'm quite thoughtful of the point. I don't need them to be super thoughtful about it if they're not into it. They don't care, right? Like, they just fix the thing. So judging who's into what and going with that. So, but the ones that are particular will come in and we'll talk about things. So it's sort of like, man, I'll take notes, like it sort of gets pretty particular at points, but I love it. I really enjoy it. That's, I think, for me, in terms of what I do, I learn so much in those times working with those players. I'm trying to understand why he thinks this bat's heavier than that bat. Like, I'm like, man, it's like super close, but then I'm looking at how far down the handle the hands are, things like that. So thinking about stuff like that. It's I love it. I'm just like, I'm a nuffy, so super into it.
Circling back a little bit and kind of, I guess, targeting more sort of amateurs or even juniors, what would be some of your advice around, say, a dad's going out to get a new bat, or a young putt playing club cricket, sort of looking at picking up something new? What are some of the things you might be looking for? What are things that you might be looking to avoid and finding a decent stick? What a great question. I think it's different for everyone. I mean, how into it are you? Is it just fun? You just like, I'm
down here playing with my mates, like just give me a bat, make it the right size, so things like that. I guess once you're a bit more, I think, so number one, getting the right size bat's important. A lot of people will say, you know, like kids use bats that are too heavy. I would argue that a lot of kids use bats that are too light. So in terms of, if you were using a size 5 for instance, and you should be using a Harrow, you're losing so much power because that bat is 5 ounces lighter, maybe. So I'm looking at it from, each person's different. Number one, if you're going to a shop, go to the warehouse, buy a set of scales, your own set, they're $20. Take that set with you to the shop so that you know exactly what the bat weighs. Right? From there, it may have a sticker on it. That bat may have been sitting there for a year, right? If it's been made in India, it's a dry climate, that bat may be now 2 ounces heavier than what that sticker says. So it's really important to know what your bat weighs when you first get it. And then in terms of like, you know, we're in the middle of winter right now, your bat will be picking up weight. So keep that set of scales, check the bat's weight. It's like, you can think that it's, so let's just say 2.9. You can think it's 2.9, right? If that bat's 2.10 now, and it was 2.9 in the summer, you don't know that. And then what can we do to sort of, like, does it need weight taken out? For me, we put it in a little kiln with a dehumidifier next to it. I'm not, you know, obviously like that's pretty, pretty nuffy, but you know, that's what I do. I keep my eye on it. For kids as well, I think it's really important. So if you have an attachment to a brand, and that's going to make you bat better, or your favourite player is Kane Williamson or Daryl Mitchell, whoever it is, and you see yourself perhaps emulating those players and using that brand's important to you, that's really important, right? So I can't say that it's not. It's super important. It goes into your psyche. I'm more at looking at the facts of the bats and stuff. So it's important that people tell me what they like. You know, I like this bat. It's, you know, I've scored hundreds with these bats, right? So I'm like, okay, I can't say anything, right? You did that, 100 runs, wow, you know? So, yeah, I don't know, I hope that helps, but I would take a set of scales and I would really think about, okay, not get too excited, right? Like, mum and dad are buying you a bat, whatever, you've saved up your pocket money. Really think about it, you know, really think about that bat. You're probably going to have one. Some kids have 4, some have 5, whatever. But if we're looking at buying one bat, it's an important decision. And so make sure it's the right size. So and make sure it's the right size right away. I think, you know, really you're probably like, say, size 5, 1 season, 1 year, you know, depending on when you have your growth spurts as well. Some kids grow 8 inches in a year and a half. So keep an eye on that. At the same time, keep open to trying new things. And as well, like, love your bat, don't fall too much in love with it, right? Something better might come along. So, and then go, you know, you might be limiting yourself by making a decision too early on your bat. So, pretty in depth for a kid.
No, that's good. You made a good comment on your Instagram the other day. I think that if you want your bat to last forever, then hang it on the wall. I think that's a
I'm so glad someone watched that video, Taylor. Thanks, mate.
It was quite funny. One of the other ones I saw was around oiling the bats. Through the comments,
contentious.
A lot of bat makers came out kind of all guns blazing.
And I love it. You know what? It's like, I'm always thinking, like, I love putting something out there. It's not fact, right? I'm putting something out there for people to consider. And I love the interaction through the Instagram channel. I love it. It helps me learn. It helps me go, I sit there and I ask myself questions, right? So I work by myself and then I'm asking myself, you know, is this the best thing? And then usually I'm like, well, you know, in the fire service, my mate's sitting next to me, right? We can have a chat about something. I can't. And it gets pretty in depth. So there's like people around the world like that do what I do. Club cricketers, professional cricketers, they follow me on the Instagram. It's a way that we can communicate about things. We can learn, and it's a dynamic journey, right? So like 30 years ago, people were taking big chunks out of the meat of the bat. I'm not going to talk about brands, but you know, we don't see that anymore, right? Was that wrong? Like, no, it wasn't wrong because people were scoring hundreds with those bats, playing for Australia, playing for New Zealand, whatever. So it's an evolution, right? And we need to put our egos out of it and go, you know what, and put something out there. I look back through my Instagram channel and I'm like, you know, like views changed on that. That's fine, you know, but that's what we do as humans, right? We're like looking to improve on things. We've got to make decisions at certain points in time. Yeah, and as well, like going back to the hanging the bat on the wall. A cricket bat is hitting something hard, right? So for the people that haven't seen that video, I talked about like it's an English willow tree, or it's some kind of willow, right? Usually English willow. That was like here on this planet before we were here, right? And then we played this game called cricket. We decided to choose that tree to make a bat out of it and then use it to hit something hard. That's what humans do, right? So we look around what we've got available, where they're available, we did that. For me, so when I make a bat for my son, so I talk about it with my son, right? So give him a bat, right? I don't want him to have any fear about breaking that bat. Right? If he's going out there and trying not to break a bat, like then any fear that you have when you're batting is fear. So whether you're scared of the ball, that's a real fear. If you're scared of like breaking the bat that mum and dad have spent a lot of money on, that's a real fear. We need to get that out. We need to remove every ounce of fear that we can so that we can bat freely. Being scared of breaking a bat, right? So I would say like if you're buying your son or your daughter a bat, right, it's a lot of money. Like we've got to choose how we spend our money. Times are tough at times, right? But if you want it to last forever, put it on the wall as a piece of art, because they are beautiful as well, cricket bats, but they're designed to be used. And the most expensive ones, right, they're going to break faster, right? So it's, go use that thing, get your confidence from that thing, love it, don't fall in love too much with it. It's going to break one day, you're going to have to like cast it aside, get a new one, move on. Better you can do those things, the better you'll be at your cricket, So.
Back to your point about moisture, like sort of the moisture content in the bat. This kind of ties back in with the oiling thing as well. Just that obviously there's been a move in the last 10, 15 years to like really dry the wood out. There's been a big influx of kind of Indian brands into New Zealand, and there's obviously it's probably changed more so on the expectation of lifespan for a bat's changed a lot. Where it's like you might buy a good kind of mid-range bat and you're expecting to get one, maybe 2 seasons. It's interesting because from like my dad played cricket down at Otago when he was younger, and he talked to me about like he'd oil his bat every time he used it. But it also took 4 years for the bat to come to like where the middle was really like playing well. And it's like obviously there's a trade-off in terms of that performance piece. Is there a world where like if you've got a young kid and it's like, okay, well, you know, hopefully this bat's gonna last them a couple of years, that maybe chucking a little bit of oil on it's not the worst thing for it, helps with that longevity piece, or?
Absolutely. So I'm really a fan of like, I'm not saying oil, I'm not saying don't oil your bat, right? When I say we don't oil bats, we don't oil. I actually had a little bit of oil in the workshop, someone came through, wanted it, talked about it, I'm like, I'll take that, we never use it, right? So the purpose of oil is, so you know, we put it on this table here, for instance, right? So in terms of a cricket bat, what the oil does is it stops moisture from getting out of the piece of wood, and it also helps stop moisture coming into the piece of wood. So it does a fantastic job. So back when your dad was playing cricket and my dad were playing cricket, we actually used to use like a white tape. There was no facings and stuff like that. So back then it was super important, I think, to oil your bat. So for me the main thing is the face of the bat. So we might be out there at the hut rec, right? There's a little bit of moisture around. Ball bounces on the pitch, we play a shot, that moisture goes onto the bat. So if we don't have that plastic facing on it, that will go into the wood. So now we have protective facings on the bat. Right? So for me, there is no need to oil the face of the bat. No moisture can get into the face, no moisture can get out of the face. For me as well, I like the look of a white bat. They look fantastic on TV. I'm into like the way things look. So I love the look of it. So it's an aesthetically pleasing thing for me. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not too sure. But I would say if you think oiling your bat's right, oil your bat. For me as well, I repair so many bats now, like that. One, people train more because of people like you training, coaching, right? There's like people now know that there's lots of money to be earned through cricket. That might be a driver. People now know that there's 11 spots in the Blackcaps or in the White Ferns, right? How do you get that one of those 11 spots, right? Number one, lots of training, right? You love it. You love what you're doing. You probably got to love the training more than the game because you're doing it 95% of the time compared to playing. So, it's oiling the bats. Do it if you think it's right? If you think it's good. But I'm repairing a lot of bats when the bats come through and they've got like too much oil on them. I'm trying to make glue stick to that stuff. Oil and glue
makes life tough.
Just don't mix, right? And I'm also of the opinion, dealing with the top players, maybe a year tops for a bat, right? So we kind of accept that bat's like great, it's gonna break, right? And then like we do things to mitigate that. So they have particular bats that they'll use for netting. So those bats typically not as low density as the ones that they're taking out, not as soft. And then also they're like more accepting of the fact that that net bat is going to break because they get high volume of balls, right? So some players have like a test match bat, only goes out when they're playing a test match. Some players use a test match, ODI, T20, same bat. Some players have a test match bat, ODI, basically a white ball bat. Some players have white ball bat that becomes a test match bat because it starts pinging amazingly well. They start pinging good sometimes. It's sort of like different. I mean, if we're like, so I decide to go and play cricket, right? I'm rubbish, right? So I go play cricket, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. But at the same time, I'm like, I really like using a good bat because like you don't need to be a race car driver to drive a Ferrari, right? But you can enjoy driving a Ferrari if you got the money and choose to spend it on that thing. It's up to you. So like when I play cricket, played 2 games this year, basically had a Ferrari bat, right? So enjoyed it though, really enjoyed it. And for 2 games a year, hey, that bat's gonna last me ages, right? I don't practice. So I'm like that's how I justify that. So as well,
Cool. So one of the other things I saw that you're talking about was around the thinner bat face.
The width.
Is it 190? How many? 105 mil?
So going through the gauge, right? So there's a gauge, and then I'm totally going to get the year wrong, so I'm not even going to say when it came in. The MCC decided bats had to be within a certain size. Too unfair against the bowler. The contest got too sort of batter friendly, I guess. So the width of the bat that fits through the gauge is 108, right? 109 actually goes through because it's got to like accommodate for facings and things like that. Then like a certain part of the world started making bats that were thinner, typically around 105 mil, these bats. I was really of the opinion that a bat should be as wide as possible, like not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. And then I've just seen things happen over that time that sort of like made me question why I felt that way. So I just changed my view on that at the moment. It's more like, okay, my question was, and I have more questions than answers for sure. So my question was like, okay, why is it 108 accepted as the optimum width? And to me it was like, because it fitted through that gauge, right? And then I'm like, well, 66 mil spine also fits in that gauge, but not every bat comes through with a 66 mil spine, but everyone gets fixated on the width, right? So if we're trying to hit the middle of that face, I would say let's take the wood out of there and put it in behind the middle. That's kind of like right now at this point in time, the way I'm thinking of it. So early days, the bats that I make would be 108 mil. Recently, then I went down to 107. I loved 107 for whatever reason. Maybe I was sort of sitting on the fence. And now I'm pretty happy to go down to 105. I'll talk with the person who's like bad it's going to be, but you know what, if you don't like my bat, there's a lot of other options around, and I'm not fussed what you buy. I'm trying to make what I think's good. I've got to stand by that, and I will tell you the width of your bat. I'll tell you the weight of your bat. I'm pretty happy with, I'm very happy with telling you honestly what I've made you. And for me, like, you know, with golf, I mean, if you miss the centre of that golf club, right, it just goes nowhere, right? And so it's the same with a cricket bat. So if you want it to ping bigger towards the edge or whatever, then like train a bit more, hit the middle of the bat. So, you know, the top players come through, there's a wear mark right in the middle of the bat, right? Because they hit the middle more often. So let's get the wood in behind the middle. So I'm not saying 105's right. I'm not saying 108's right. I'm saying I've made a decision and I'm sitting in here. You know, and I'm pretty happy to make a bat that's 105 mil wide. And as well, I've seen like world records being broken by people in T20 games, 16 sixes in an innings. And I know the width of that bat. Like I know exactly what it was. So that for me, rather than saying my opinion, I know what's happened. I've seen it. So and you know, not many people are aware of that, but you know, that's a fact. So my opinion on it doesn't really matter. I'll just go with the facts on it. So and did you know that rule came about? So pretty sure this is right. I think it was W.G. Grace, right? So he was out there batting, right, 100 or whatever years ago, right? Yeah, and he went out to bat in the test match, and he put this bat down, and it was like this wide. Bowler comes in, right, and he's just like that. And then, you know, so maybe that rule came in then, but it was like the reasons why the rules come in at different times, they're for different reasons. So as well, it's like, it's not like, I don't know, I just got like heaps of questions. It just fascinates me. Maybe a wider bat's better for test cricket. Let's go with that. Who knows? But I'm like, maybe that 105 mil wide bat, you're not going to edge it to first slip. I don't know.
It's interesting. A couple of
we need some science, you know, like someone needs to figure it out.
A couple of thoughts I had when I saw that was, like with training, often if you use like a half bat or like a middling bat, it's interesting how really the players miss. That actually it just kind of gets them zoned in and they find the middle pretty consistently. The other thing, and this is getting a little bit bro science, was I was kind of, and I don't think 3 mil is going to make that much difference, but I was kind of thinking like the wider the face, the more I guess it has to kind of penetrate through the atmosphere, through the
friction
conditions. That it's actually the smaller surface area to kind of potentially increase. I can't imagine 3 mil is going to make.
I haven't thought about that one. That's a good one.
I was sort of thinking about that.
And as well, like there's another thing, right? So your bat's your bat. It matters what you reckon. Right. That's what matters. If a wider looking bat makes you more confident, then get a wider bat. Right, that's really, it comes down to decisions, right? People are buying bats to use, to do something, you know, they've got these ambitions of achieving things. So like, you choose what you think's right. So that's where I reckon there,
Out of interest, with the bat size, have you ever come across double clefs? I think they've since been made illegal.
So that's a laminated bat. So though, to the listeners, it's like when you put like a grade 1 on the front, maybe 10 mil, and then it's glued to say, you know, whatever on the back, it doesn't really matter. So that glue, like I have seen like maybe half a dozen come through the workshop, and a couple of them, you know what, like I didn't even realise until I'd stripped it right down, and then I was like, hey, like the grains are different, right? So they perform amazingly, right? And it's like when we're in a shortage of English willow, maybe that's like a decent option for amateur cricket. Who knows? I'm like, I'm not even going to get into like my opinion on it, but you know, it's a cheaper option, and you get amazing performance. They're illegal. So I do see them. People ask me to make them, and I'm like, I will make you one if you're going to use it for training. If you're going to use it for a game and you know that it's wrong, I will not make you one. Right? I'm like, there's a set of rules that we have to stay within, and I don't want to be part of you know, breaking those rules. So to me, that's like, you know, integrity is the word, I guess, you know. So but I'm like, it fascinates me, that idea. Yeah, I've thought about making one just for like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's maybe LMS. I don't know what the rules are for LMS.
Yeah.
Maybe who even checks the bats?
Yeah.
I mean, like who brings a gauge? You
Yeah.
know, so I think it's like it's kind of if you know you're breaking a rule, you're breaking a rule, right? So
yeah. So I think I had one around maybe 2015 or something, 2014, just before they were kind of made illegal.
Yep.
And I think the thinking behind it was also that you could draw more moisture out of the flat side.
Oh yeah.
So you could actually put a lot more wood in it, but
Did it ping really well?
Unreal.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Probad, eh?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It was
at like quarter of the price.
But the issue they ran into was I think they were hollowing them out and packing them with foam. In some sort of circles, and the only way they could check apparently was by drilling into the middle of them.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of international players who had holes drilled into the middle
like
of their kind of
corking a baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
And then
but it was definitely the performance was good.
Yeah.
The other one I'm not sure if you ever came across was a mongoose.
Yeah, I've had one through. Right, super long handle. Matthew Hayden, maybe?
Yeah.
Was it I don't know.
I think he used them for a bit.
Yeah.
Lou Vincent, Stuart, like there were a few guys that were kind of floating around with them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, I picked one of them up in the UK when they were going into liquidation.
Oh yeah.
And it was like it hit the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just as soon as it kind of got up around your face, you're a little bit kind of
playing a pull shot, eh?
Yeah, trying to.
There's no stickers to protect
knock
you.
it away with a handle.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I see that there's the kind of the slightly shorter blade and slightly longer handles. A little bit of a thing for some players now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's so what's the word like there's a lack of science.
Yep.
I think, and I'm just like. I really want to see science around it because it just becomes subjective and it becomes what we think. So, but if we believe in something, then it's good, right? And then we're like, we make a decision, we like this bat. So I think like typically long handle, long blade is the term, and then that would be like, an inch longer on the handle. Overall length the same, and then you take an inch away on the blade. To me, like I love the idea of stuff like that. I'm really into like I made my boy one like a couple of weeks ago, and we just went 10 mil shorter, just to give it a go. Why not? And as well, like if you grip further down and you choke up on the shoulders, because you're closer to the balance point with your hands, the bat picks up better. Right, but then again, you've got that extra bit at the end. Are you a player that gets annoyed by that bit hitting you on the wrist? Things like that. So looking at stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really into. I love when people want to try stuff. I find it fascinating, and I want to know why they want to try it as well, because it's like maybe I haven't thought about the why. But yeah, long handle, short blade. I think there's something in it, perhaps for T20 cricket. And that's another thing, T20 cricket, Test match cricket, ODI, they're different games. When people say cricket, I mean, come on, they're totally different games. So like, that's something to keep in mind as well. Perhaps the bats need to be different. Different thoughts around them are important,
No, it's definitely interesting, some of the stuff they come out with. Remember Gray Nichols came out with a double-sided bat for David Warner. When he sort of, some interesting ones floating around.
And we don't know until we try it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, give it a go. There's people playing left-handed shots now. Who knows? So and as long as it's like the rules keep changing. Someone comes up with a great idea and I'm like, no, MCC, we can't have that. Which is important. We've got to protect the heritage of the game and stuff like that. So like if we can do things within the rules, give it a go. I'm a fan. Yeah,
absolutely. So for I guess just the average amateur, like in terms of preventing breaks and protection and that sort of stuff, I've seen a little bit of. So you're talking about binding in a video the other day.
Toes and shoulders.
Anything kind of any tips for young people wanting to kind of keep their bat. If there's any preventative measures or anything they can take.
So in terms of bat care, this is the way I look at it, right? So you're batting number 4, number 3 gets out, it's your turn to bat. Go smash the thing. Do what you need to do with that bat. As soon as you get out or whatever, you retire, whatever happens, come back, put that bat in the bat case. Right. So number 1, have a bat case for your bat that's padded. I'm not a fan of putting a bat inside along with your gear because you've got sweaty pads, sweaty helmet, right? And we're putting in wood that wants to drink, so you're providing it an opportunity to gain weight. And as well, spikes might be in there, things can be damaged. So I'm like, bats in a bat case around the shoulder, and then we pull the bag or carry the bag, whatever it is. So separate. Looking after bats, so the decisions people make around their bats are really important in terms of making them last. We spend lots of money on a bat, all right? And we need that thing to do a certain job for a certain amount of time. So put a facing on, 100%. If you think oiling's good, oil the bat. And then I'm into using binding at the moment. So again, no scientific evidence, but binding to me is like having a full-time clamp on vulnerable areas, which are the toe and the shoulders. So it's almost like they're being held by a vice or a clamp all the time, at the times where they can be broken. So the decision I made for the bats that my son uses, we bind the toe and we bind their shoulders. And people will say, well, you could fix it. And I'm like, yeah, but then I'm not fixing your bat, right? So I'm not doing my job. So I don't want his bats to be up on my bench all the time being fixed. So yeah, I've got the same thing to think about. So I need his bats to not be on my bench. I need them to not break. So that's the decision I make there. Some professional players do it as well. So we'll, brand new bat, binding shoulders and toe. Sometimes there's damage there, and then we'll do that as an after thing to hold in a piece of glued in piece of wood or whatever it may be. But yeah, some players hate the look of it. But yeah, I'm just into it. Makes sense to me. And then whether it's right or wrong, that's just what I do.
One of the things we talked about previously is you obviously get to spend a lot of time with some pretty good players, and one of the things you sort of spoke about as a benefit of your job is you actually get to sit and chat and talk with guys who are some of the best in the world. In a safe environment. Absolutely.
No one's watching. It's awesome.
Without sharing any trade secrets, is there any kind of little nuggets or things that they're kind of sort of shared in that space that you found really good, or it was really helped your boy, or would be kind of valuable advice for?
I think, to me, what I would say about the very things that I've noticed about the very, very top players, I only deal with the Kiwi players, right? So they're good fellas, right? But they are super confident and they have zero ego. So that to me is like, they're tuned in, right? They love what they do. One thing I'd say is people go, they train a lot. People have no idea how much training they do. Like Rachin, Kane, Devon, so much training, and they're so into it, right? And it's net time, nutrition, mindfulness training. They're just doing so much work. And when people go, I want to do this, it's like, okay, right? When you score 100 for New Zealand, right? You put your bat up, the crowd claps for maybe 20 seconds, and then you put your helmet back on, you continue. That moment's over, right? It's not about the moment. That whole journey to getting to that point has got to be fun. And to me, they just seem like they're passionate about it. They love it. They don't take it for granted. And to me, so no ego. That's incredible to see. And spending time with them in terms of the bats. So they're all very different. And for me, I'm I don't want to have carryover from working with that guy into this guy. So I don't want it to change his thoughts on or something. But at the same time, look, if you're working with Kane, people want to know. They're what did he say? And it's so we can share things like that. What are we working on there and stuff like that. And in that environment, we keep it very close. It's very private. We can't put it out on the Instagram, for instance. So, but it's they're really tuned in to their equipment. They're really, when watching them hold a bat and they're standing in my workshop, I'm like sometimes like, you know, you can pinch yourself. Yeah, it's pretty like it's pretty amazing, right? But it's fortunate that I'm the person there, and then I'm like, okay, Peter, be professional, do some work here, right? So, but yeah, I mean, one thing I was interesting, right? I'll share about Kane Williamson. Let's just say it. So I saw him, right? So he had a good test season last season, and then he scored 100. I think it was down at Hagley, Christchurch, and then he's giving, and on Instagram he's giving Daryl Mitchell a high five, right? Like walking off the field, and so he came in. He's in my workshop, and I said, "Oh yeah, there's a photo of you giving Daryl Mitchell a high five," and he's like, "Yeah," and then I'm like, "Your grip's like moved up an inch, you know, like it's moved up from the base of the handle, like we can secure it so it doesn't do that." And he goes, "Oh no, I like that, right? Because it gives me a little bit, I like holding on to that bottom piece of the grip." And I'm like, "Man, like you're special," right? Like, and so that to me, so we don't do that on his bats. We don't put the adhesive stuff that we use to hold the grips down, whereas most people don't want their bat riding up. So I said, okay, cool. When I put a grip on, I can put it up an inch. And he goes, "Oh no, I like it when it naturally finds its spot," right? So I'm like, how cool is this, right? And then, so that to me is like part of what makes these players who they are. You know, they're really like, he's like, that's what I like. You know, it's like he's not trying to please anyone else. He's like, it's my bat, it's what I like. He's made decisions around it, and he's super tuned in. So like, that's what I share. Like, but another thing I'd say, and this is a big one. So like, I come down to these training facilities, my boys here, they're training away, whatever. When someone's got a hole in their grip, I'm like, come on, man, right? Like, you're here with your coach, you're paying the coach, spend $10 on the grip, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's super, super critical, right? And that, to me as well, like, if I was playing for a living, I'd put a new grip on every game. Why not? Like, you know, when you put a new grip on your bat, it's like, oh man, it's like amazing. So, keep a few spare grips in your bag, right? And like, not just for you, for your teammates, right? You're trying to help your team win. Like, if someone's got a hole in their grip, go over and change his grip. Like, be the person in your team that's aware of these things. I'm just looking at that. I don't have a coaching certificate, right? But I'm like looking at, I still want to help people play better cricket. So I look at things like that. What are the things that we can do? Fresh grip. So the pros, they'll buy 10 grips at a time. If they come, the ones that do buy from me, they'll buy 10 at a time, right? They don't just get one grip. They're buying heaps. Then they're prepared, right? So like, and they go away on a tour, and they go away for a long time. 10 grips will last that time. So it's really like, there's no rocket science. They're doing a whole lot of simple things, and they're having awareness around a whole lot of simple things, and they're doing them. So as well, I can tell the very top batsmen when they send me a bat, right? They haven't come in to deliver it. They've posted it in. It's neatly packed. The box has like sellotape beautifully, right? You can tell that they're just tuned in to that cricket bat. It means something to them. It's an important part of what they do. The notes on the bat are very particular. So I would say as well, like, you know, I just rehandle, right? Like, oh, rehandle, please copy the exact same shape. Like, fantastic information for me to have. So that's what I noticed with the very top players. Their communication in terms of like telling me what they want from me is very clear. They've thought about it, right? And as well, sometimes I do need to educate people about what's possible. But at the same time, like, after they know what we can do, super clear.
What are the trickiest sort of fixes? What are the tougher parts of your day in terms of putting a bat back together?
Probably the most technical is doing a rehandle. You know, now I wouldn't say it's tricky, it's very simple. I've got a process that I stick to. Pretty much if someone I have to be very clear about what's possible. So quite often I get asked, you know, hey, my bat's 212, I want it to be 28, right? And I'm like, okay, you're going to lose like 4 ounces of performance. They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you know, you're taking mass out of something, right? So if we make a bat out of a bit of wood, say I'm making a bat, I make that bat at 2.9. if I had stopped at 211, then that bat that was 211 would have gone further, right? So if we take any time we take wood out of a piece of wood, a cricket bat, so just educating, I think, like, and through doing more and more of what I do, then making it clear to people. Some people with handles, like, I'm not going to say names, sometimes I get sent handles and they're very particular about, you know, like it has to be exactly like this. And it can be, you know, I'm using my calipers, I spend twice as long as normal, but I'm not a robot, you know, and it's like, so then I'm like, exactly what part of the handle do you like? Is it how it goes into the, you know, into the shoulders of the bat? Is it, you know, the top? Is it, what is it? You know, so I'm trying to figure those things out. But yeah, again, it's like if we have clear communication around what we're doing, it's way easier. So as well, what's hard? It's not really hard, it's all quite simple, but just making sure things are clear with people in terms of what we can do. So like as well, so like, right, if you want like a Ferrari, right, you go down to a car shop and you get out 700,000, whatever they are, and you pay that money and you have a Ferrari, right? You cannot expect to go and I'm willing to pay for a Mazda or Toyota and then have a Ferrari. I constantly see people wanting a Ferrari but not paying the price. Right? Those top bats are super expensive, and you have to pay for them, right? Unless you're sponsored by a company that makes Ferraris. So I think I've seen like 5 or 10 guys that have 5 or 6 bats, right, searching for that Ferrari. So they've spent like the price of 2 Ferraris and they still haven't got a Ferrari. And they're like, so you got to spend money, right? They're expensive, and as well, if you drive a Ferrari around like a Toyota, you're going to be around at the mechanic all the time. They're just for Sundays, right? Like, it's like the more you spend on a cricket bat, like the very expensive ones, they do not last as long as like a wider grain bat that's dense, more dense. So understanding that, right, and then accepting that that thing may break. So these are the decisions that we have to make. And as well, like, I would be spending the money because, like, number one, I'd be spending the money on someone like you, so I can train with you, because that's super important. That's number one. I'll be looking at nutrition, the food I'm putting into my body, gym, everything like that, and then the cricket bats. Except they're going to have to spend money. That's it, you know. So
it's an interesting point you make, because you're right, where you see it at times where someone's got really big aspirations, and they're kind of ticking 75% of it over here. But there's, whether it's, like I said, nutrition, gear, whatever, that they're just kind of not prepared to go all in on. And it seems to, it's hard to do it without actually, fully committing.
It's so I hear, you know, some players come through, they're looking to make that next step, and I say, well, you know, you want to be in that team. I know that the guys in that team have better bats than you. So if you want to get one of their spots, you have to get bats that are as good as them. Like, we're equaling up the ledger there, right? And then you train more than them. But start off with getting the same bats as them, at least. And then they go, but they're expensive. And I'm like, you just told me you want to play cricket for a living, right? Like, it's an investment. Accept it. You know, it's easy to say, right? It's so easy for me to say. It's a lot of money.
It is.
And you know, people go, but you make bats. You're a bat maker. You make your kids' bats. Luca has 4 bats. I've made 2 of them. The other 2, it's hard to get willow that's that good. I bought them. And I bought another brand. I'm not going to say what brand it is. I'll tell you after this. But I bought those 2 bats. So there's 4 bats, and it's the willow. It's basically as good as any New Zealand player would use, because I know the difference that bat makes, right? So is it indulging him? Some people may say yes, but for me it's like increasing the opportunity every time he goes out to bat, to bat better, and enjoy what he's doing. So as well, like, people talk about making it and not making it. Like, every day you get to go play cricket, that's making it, right? It's, you know, we live our lives. I mean, like, being here talking to you is making it. it's enjoying each moment. So a little bit preachy maybe, but that's just the way I look at it. It's not making it and not making it. Remove that doubt. Decide you're going to do something. Go for it. No one can stop you, right? Except for you and your preconceived ideas or like your self-doubt. So get as much confidence as you can and then go for it.
Just where people can find you.
Yeah, cool. So I put it all through Instagram. I just sort of choose one channel to go through, and that's been Instagram. So it's Grace_cricket_NZ. And it'll be sort of the last couple of years of my journey, and I just add to it all the time. So putting up stories and stuff like that. Or pete@gracecricket.co.nz if you want to get in touch. Happy to talk with anyone. Thanks for having me, Taylor.
No, thanks so much for coming on, Pete, and look forward to following Grace Cricket over the next wee while.
Cool, I look forward to following your podcast.
No, awesome, thanks for coming on.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks, Sam.